Yes.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Watertown Weekly News. The Firefighters Union will be forced to make a difficult decision that could possibly affect their response time to emergencies. How could that affect you? Stay tuned to find out. Our other top story is a longtime councilor at large has decided to run for council president, which could shake up things in the town's political scene.
And in other news, if you thought the lines at the Registry of Motor Vehicles were long before, well, get ready to see even longer lines. Why? You'll have to stick around to find out. And if you have a child in the high school who plays sports, you just might have to take a hit to your wallet. We'll tell you why in just a few minutes. Good evening, I'm Lori Comlin.
And I'm Rob Scudder. Stay tuned for those stories and more. And Al's back with sports. Watertown Weekly News will be turning in just 30 seconds. Good evening. It was a light agenda for the planning board at their Wednesday meeting. They held a special permit finding for a non-conforming setback and discussed a proposal by a landscaping business to move to a new location. For more on the meeting, here's John Keelays.
This week's planning board meeting saw 3 cases. First up was Ken Leitner representing Alan Marcia of 7 Ralph Street. They were seeking to add an addition onto his house despite his lot not meeting the town's size requirements.
What Mr. March is proposing to do is to add a second story, raise the height of the roof of the peak to 28.4 feet, so we can have a full second story, which would have 3 bedrooms and a bathroom.
Staff finds that the proposal would not be substantially more detrimental and would actually be an improvement to the neighborhood. Staff recommends approval.
The proposed ordinance for Marcia and his property at 7 Ralph Street was approved and will meet with the zoning board in 2 weeks. Next up was William York on behalf of Claudio Coppola, who runs a landscaping business here in Watertown and has for over 40 years. Coppola seeks to add a plant nursery to his lot for the business and also aims to share the lot with Landscape Collaborative, Inc., who needs to leave their current site but wishes to stay in Watertown.
Extending a plant yard, a nursery, which will be used to maintain small trees, bushes, flowers that will be transferred to customers of the business. And part of, we think, the positive appeal of the upgrade of the site is that a well-respected, well-established Watertown landscape contractor, Landscape Collaborative, that has worked in a residential neighborhood off of Washburn Street, will be brought to this site. So essentially, that is what simply is looked to be done.
So based on the criteria that it meets 4.06A, staff recommends conditional approval.
Coppola's proposal was conditionally approved and they too will meet with the zoning board in 2 weeks. Finally was 71 Arsenal Street, which was Dave Webster, representing United Cerebral Palsy of Boston, who seeks to add additional facilities to accommodate their staff.
We did know that we needed to have a better space for which our administrative staff should work. So we went back to the drawing board and we decided that, yes, we do need better administrative space for our staff and 71 Arts on the Street. But we decided that we did not want to go forward with adding a second story to the building, which would be adding approximately 2,000 square feet to the space. So we have, after much debate, decided to go with a scaled-back renovation plan, which would basically be on the existing building and on the existing footprint.
So based on the findings that it meets the criteria for special permit and the special permit finding, staff recommends approval.
Webster's proposal was also conditionally approved, and they also meet with the zoning board in 2 weeks. We will have that meeting for you when it happens. For Watertown Weekly News, I'm John Keelays.
After last week's town council vote that cut the fire department's budget to almost $8 million and reduced the number of firefighters from 89 to 83, both Steve Igo, the president of Watertown's firefighter union, and Fire Chief Mario Arangio were quick to point out that fewer firefighters would result in delays in service. As a result of the budget cut, Watertown's fire union, Local 1347, will be required to make a tough decision: either accept a contractual concession or see 4 firefighters laid off. This in addition to the 2 firefighter positions they've already lost this year. While Igo did not want to reveal what the concession was, he said it was a benefit the firefighters bargained for and have had for many years. If the majority of those who vote approve the compromise, it will be implemented. But if not, according to Igo, the firefighters might feel responsible for 4 people losing their jobs in this tight economy. Either way, Igo said it's a lose-lose proposition for the firefighters who have, in his opinion, been placed in a difficult position. The union has already had to agree to concessions they were not comfortable with, such as including a firefighter in training at the academy as one of the 5 officers that can be off per shift, which has allowed the town to have 1 less officer per shift. As part of the town council budget negotiations, the East End ladder truck will be placed out of service at various times, which concerns Igo greatly as that neighborhood is heavily congested with 2-family homes.
Well, according to Marilyn Devaney, she's been very content for the past 28 years as an at-large councilor. But after a number of supporters asked her to run for town council president, she decided it was her civic duty to accommodate their wishes. She's also up for re-election at her at-large race, which is for 4 spots, but she can't run for both positions. So she has until July 20th to decide in which race she'll become a candidate. When she makes a decision, she'll have to withdraw from the other race. Both the current town council president and vice president, Clyde Younger and Mark Sedaris respectively, have also pulled papers for the position. Other at-large candidates are town council incumbent Susan Falcoff and Stephen Corbett, former town councilor J.D. Donahue, Tony Aiello, Michael Bohegian, and retired police sergeant William Patterson. This will be Devaney's first run for town council president, and whomever is elected will also serve as school committee member.
Watertown High School athletes will be forced to pay to play this year as school officials try to close a $50,000 budget gap. The school committee is meeting throughout the month to try to come to an agreement on just how much to charge per sport, and are aiming to have that figure by the end of the month. Most estimates show that to raise the needed $50,000, they would have to collect between $125 and $150 per athlete per sport. It is speculated, however, that 3-sport athletes will have to pay for their fall and winter activities, but would be able to participate in a spring sport free of charge. Also, there would be a cap on what families would have to pay to keep their teens busy. However, that doesn't take into account a potential drop in participation as a result of the new charges.
For many years, Watertown High School has not charged user fees and has taken great pride in covering these costs. Even with these fees, other schools in the Middlesex League have a much higher user fee per athlete than what Watertown is proposing. Some fear, though, that even with user fees, the town won't be able to cover all the costs that come with fielding Watertown High School teams, meaning that the town is still subsidizing much of the cost. Athletes at the middle school level will not pay any fees. The matter will be taken up at a policy subcommittee meeting this coming Wednesday, with a full committee meeting to be held on July 29th. Both meetings will take place in the high school lecture hall at 7 p.m. and are open to the public. Don't go away. After this public service announcement, we'll tell you how a trip to the Registry of Motor Vehicles could become an all-day affair.
Also, the Boston Biomedical Research Institute played host to some of the top physicians and scientists at the only Wellstone Center in New England.
Don't go away. Watertown Weekly News will be right back.
Takeout meals for just $12.99. Call it.
Sherry Pearson. You are the sole surviving heir of the King of Montonopolis, and you are now worth $45 million.
I'm rich. This can't be real.
Of course it's not real. Come on. Having money isn't about luck. Like that takeout meal. Cook at home instead, you can save thousands a year. Feed me. Feed the pig.
My first week home was great. We had a party, small party.
2 o'clock in the morning, they were waiting for me.
My niece was waiting for me at the airport with a sign and balloons.
There was a huge sign across my front house, and it said, "Welcome home, Megan."
They lifted me up on their shoulders, and first week back, people just said thank you. They just said thank you.
A new generation of veterans is coming home. Make a difference for them at welcomebackveterans.org.
Mom! Mom!
What?
Can't find Ichabod.
What?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Physicians, scientists, patients, and members of the biotech industry from around the world recently gathered for the first major meeting of a unique research center on muscular dystrophy, the Senator Paul D. Wellstone Muscular Dystrophy Cooperative Research Center. Established last year and based at Boston Biomedical Research Institute here in Watertown, it is the only Wellstone Center to focus solely on finding treatments and cures for the second most common adult form of MD, known as facioscapulohumeral muscular dystrophy, otherwise known as FSH. The purpose of the conference was for world experts on this debilitating disease to present their current research findings, discuss and plan collaborative projects, and fine-tune future research. Dr. Charles Emerson, director of Boston Biomedical Research Institute and the Wellstone Center, said they had participants from Australia and Brazil and from Iowa to Children's Hospital here in Boston. FSH, which affects at least 1 in 20,000 adults worldwide, is characterized by a weakening of the skeletal muscles, beginning in the face and slowly progressing to the shoulder and upper arm muscles, and then down to the abdominal and foot extensor muscles. In the worst cases, all skeletal muscles are lost, hearing and vision are involved, and respiratory insufficiency can cause severe disability.